Parents, beware. Your children, homeward bound from school, are being introduced to a new danger in the form of a drugged cigarette, marijuana.
It is convinced that he is hopelessly and incurably insane, a condition caused by the drug marijuana to which he was addicted.
The monopolization of production also included the demonization of hemp. Andrew Mellon, Randolph Hearst, and the DuPont family were instrumental in pushing through the Marijuana Tax Act of 1937, which raised taxes on hemp in the U.S. to bleed the hemp industry dry and support the oil industry. Banker Andrew Mellon appointed Harry Anslinger as chairman of the newly formed Federal Bureau of Narcotics. Basically, the goal was to create the conditions to make humanity dependent on the system in the long run, and to eradicate any possibility of self-determination and freedom. The 19th century was also the time of the establishment of mass indoctrination institutions, called schools, where state-imposed propaganda was taught to educate young people to become willing recipients of orders. The expansion of compulsory education and the Gleichschaltung of teachers then picked up speed again in the 20th century with the rise of fascism and communism. If the Vatican had not already achieved sufficient success through the consistent persecution of witches and the Inquisition, as well as the burning of books and the destruction of culture, then its mission was crowned with success with the widespread introduction of religious propaganda, which no child could escape. Thus, Karl-Heinz Deschner wrote in his book, God and the Fascists, the Vatican Alliance with Mussolini, Franco, Hitler, and Pavlovich, that under Mussolini, the books of the Italian elementary schools consisted of 1/3 catechism pieces and prayers, and 2/3 of glorifications of fascism and war. The whole thing was crowned only by renewed bans on anti-clerical criticism and media coverage. Thus, one of the basic principles of the old world, each community, family, lives autonomously and is responsible for its own children, was invalidated. The consequent tearing apart of these communities and the early centralized indoctrination were of central importance. Then, with the Flexner Report of 1910, the robber barons Rockefeller and Carnegie destroyed holistic medicine in the U.S. and laid the groundwork for building the anti-life medical cartel under which we live today. Electrotherapy, phytotherapy, and osteopathy, for example, were banned from the official canon, and the curriculum was standardized so that pharma-controlled conventional medicine could establish itself as the only recognized form of medicine. Most independent schools were forced to close as a result of the Flexner Report. The Flexner Report was inspired by the destruction of alternative healing methods in Germany, where the policies of the Flexner Report had already been implemented in 1880.
Throughout his life, Flexner was an ardent advocate of the German pedagogical style of medical education. He firmly believed that medicine was a scientific discipline that could best be realized in America using the German model as a prototype. It was a system in which medical scientists were trained in university hospitals. Science as the animating force in the physician's life was the overarching theme, the zeitgeist, in Flexner's conception of the ideal physician. Thomas P. Duffy, The Flexner Report, 100 years later.
Every area of modern science is now dominated by an ideological doctrinaire establishment, in which positions are awarded to each other, and it is ensured that real insights are suppressed.
Aan tafel is onder andere Connie Bruin. Die schreef dit schitterende boek, dat heet De Handelsreiziger. En dat gaat eigenlijk vooral over iets wat wij niet wisten, namelijk over de grootste cocaïnefabriek ter wereld. En die stond
in Amsterdam aan de Weespertrekvaart.
The British used opium to take over China. In Europe, the Royal Dutch Cocaine Factory was responsible for anesthetizing the population, and during World War I supplied all countries involved in the war with cocaine made from coca leaves imported from Peru. The origin of this factory was the Dutch East India Company, Next to the British East India Company, one of the most powerful trade and power structures of the colonial era. It was through the Dutch cocaine factory, which was supported and protected by the government and had a virtual monopoly on cocaine, that World War I was made possible, because it was only through alienation and anesthesia that soldiers were able to endure the suffering during the war. The Netherlands emerged from the First World War as one of the richest countries in the world thanks to the sale of cocaine. Innumerable traumatized soldiers remained addicted to cocaine after the war, and some even raided pharmacies to obtain it. For even more effective anesthetization of the World War II soldiers, the factory's production was shifted from cocaine to amphetamine in 1942.